Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you, and this is Another Side of Midnight. What does that mean? I don't know. Our number is 800-848-9222, and we so love your calls. You see, my friends, let me explain something, and I always want to tell you something. It's the calls that add the flavor to the whole notion of talk radio. And what this is. Terrestrial, prototypical, usual, prototypical, I think I already said that, talk radio will never go the way of the dinosaur. No matter how great YouTube is, and it is great, they don't have calls. They don't have calls. That's the thing which I find so interesting. I had a dear friend of mine I talked to this week. He says, your calls, they're alarming. I said, alarming? What do you mean? I don't know. I just, sometimes I wonder, although that's the most fantastic thing in the world. Name any element. Let me just go back and explain this to you. Name any element, any type of show, any type of news. Now think about this, that reaches out and says, what do you think? What do you think now? What do you think about what I'm doing now? What do you think about this? None. This is the thing you have to explain. People love to say, well, I love they call it terrestrial talk radio. Terrestrial talk radio will never, ever die, ever. If it is handled with care, if you understand what it is. Because that's the part. And let me explain something to you. We've got two people. We have Bill Lee, of course, who, let's face it, who he put together away years of the circus, service to his country. Man who is, his curriculum vitae is so terrific, so incredible, so much a part of this. A man who was abandoned to wolves, and then the wolves abandoned him. But I'd rather not get into it. He swore me to secrecy. He's stewarding the helm, looking at the control board. Something I wouldn't know what to do if you let me know. Then we have our friend, Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson Warren, this is the cat. This is the dude. This is the feller. This is the human who was responsible for, if you think about this, taking your cause, being the ombudsman, being that link between you and me. And let me tell you something, and I mean it. I cannot say this enough. It is so critical and so important that people understand how this thing works. I mean it. Because that's the beautiful part. I love calls. And you'd be surprised the number of people who do not like calls, who don't care for them. Oh, yes. I can tell you the number of people who are petrified of calls. God, how I love them. You have no idea. And I just want you to appreciate, for you to understand this. And I love this idea how people say, well, it's 2 a.m. Who's going to be calling? Are you kidding me? This is the greatest time in the world. Because right now it's like the inmates are in charge of the asylum. This is, we are not laden. We are not feeling the yoke of the usual service elements in news, sports, and weather. Not that this does it, but let me tell you something, and I mean this. There will never, ever, 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 ever be the demise, the end, the denouement, the cessation of talk radio. Terrestrial talk radio, I mean AM, and whatever AM means today, whatever that means, we don't have a transistor. So long as there are callers. I mean that. I can't say it enough. The most important thing in the world. My friends, this weekend, my wife and I were perambulating along the 9th Avenue area, and lo and behold, there it was, this beautiful, maybe it was 8th. Yeah, it was 9th, 8th, whatever it was. Anyway, it was this beautiful street fair. In New York, street fairs are absolutely terrific. And in the Hell's Kitchen area in particular, they used to be so terrific years ago. You would walk and you would buy a big canister of garlic powder that would turn into a rock. And you would buy tube socks. It wasn't exactly the most imaginative, but you could just sit. And if you want to people watch, dear God, it's the most wonderful mass of humanity. The smell of barbecue and people supplying their wares, people serving you food, people with misspelled tattoos on their hands, no plastic gloves, no nothing, people with droopy eyelids, people who could be escapees, serving you churros. That's what makes America great. And as I was walking and perambulating and locomoting about the boulevard, I was thinking to myself, I wonder what these people really care about. I really, if I said, excuse me, what is on your mind? They would say, what do you mean? What really concerns you? I think most Americans, very frankly, are insouciant. I don't think they care. I think there's a degree of intellectual torpor and, dare we say, ennui Christian soldiers, ennui, this sense of, and that's good. But we, my friends, are different. Oh, no. We are different. I'm not going to say worry. I think that's the wrong term. But we concern ourselves with things that other people and most people don't. Because remember, if you're talking to most people, they could not care less about what it is that you find fascinating. So I have an absolute plethora, a bevy, a cacophony, an endless list of topics for your edification and review. But in keeping with what I said, and to show you I'm a man of my word, let's start off right off the bat. Here's a fellow by the name of Michael. Michael in New Jersey. Michael, you're on another side of midnight.
Yes,
and Michael,
here.
We haven't even announced
Hi.
a title or a subject matter, and you're already talking, and you already are concerned, and I appreciate that. Michael, what is on your mind, my friend?
I haven't spoken to you in quite a while, but that's another story.
And you know what, Michael? You know what's interesting?
thinking-
Nobody knows that. You know, Michael, nobody knows that. And more importantly,
That's true.
nobody cares.
Absolutely.
Nobody.
Yeah, you're right.
But thank you, my
right
friend.
on. So
Indeed,
what I
sir.
wanted to say is, try to think futuristically. The fact that all these different parts that make up the beginnings of what I would refer to as maybe the beginnings of another industrial revolution. Do you
Yes.
think that could bring world peace? Because everyone has,
No.
in order to keep it together, these things are coming from all over the world.
No. I think this is the beginning of the end. I think this is the end is nigh. No, I'm kidding. How the hell would I know? Look, but I appreciate the fact that you even care about this. Let me tell you what I find interesting. You mentioned a lot of things. You said the Industrial Revolution. You know what's so funny, Michael? And by the way, you have one of the most universally popular names, because if the truth be known, that
I
is
know.
my given
That's your name, too.
Christian name.
I know. My wife's name
Yes,
also
it means
is Michael,
one.
by the way.
You know what it means? It's actually Hebrew in nature, and it means the cattle are dying. Most people don't know that. I kid, of course. It means one
didn't know
who is
that.
like God. Yes. By the way,
Yeah.
you know where that joke comes from? Remember Welcome Back, Kotter?
Oh, yeah. Yes, I do.
They asked the character Horseshack, what does your name mean? He says, if some language meant the cattle are dying. And I never forgot that. And I think that
That's
is
really-
absolutely funny. But
that's funny.
you bring up something. You know, the Bronze Age, my dear Michael, was built, and I mentioned this before, on this copper and tin. This was absolutely revolutionary in our development. The Industrial Revolution, as you have so artfully alluded to, ran on coal and steel. And the 20th century, of course, bowed before oil. But the 21st century, Michael, what is that? That belongs to semiconductors, silicon chips hidden inside everything that we use, from smartphones, fighter jets, AI servers, electric vehicles, civilization right now, Michael, whether you like it or not. And even though you are ensconced in communist New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill at the helm, and now civilization now runs not just on
native
food.
New Yorker, by the way.
Doesn't matter. You're not here anymore. You're there. You elected to live there, and you must now pay.
I have enough money to pay my rent. That's why.
You must not pay. Yes, indeed. But
no choice.
Michael, I thank you so much. Please call me back. Civilization now runs, my friend, not just on food and fuel and water, but on things, transistors. And I alluded to this, smaller than bacteria. Think about this. A semiconductor. What is that? I want the whole conductor. No, a semiconductor. And now with a railroad strike, it's a semiconductor. It's what it basically essentially is sand, little grains of sand, refined and technically modified into a form of technological royalty. Silicon versus silicone, Silicon Valley silicon occupies this kind of weird middle ground between conductors, insulators, and allows engineers to control the flow of electricity with astonishing precision. Only a few people found this out. Billions of microscopic transistors etched into chips, no larger than, you've seen them, like a fingernail, creating what amounts to, I guess, the brains powering our civilization. Now think about this. These chips that we talk about do critical different jobs. And when President Trump was talking to Xi Jinping, we're talking about China and Taiwan, it's this that we're talking about. You hear this a lot. CPUs handle logic. GPUs dominate artificial intelligence. Memory chips quietly store the streams of messages and videos and internet communications. And AI chips now sit atop the semiconductor hierarchy. They devour electricity and computing power with an appetite that you cannot even imagine. Yet, my friend, despite the futuristic image, and I was telling Bill Lee about this, and he said, huh? I said, Bill, don't you understand? The semiconductor industry depends heavily on raw materials, mining, geopolitics. Silicon comes from quartz. China dominates much of the rare earth and gallium supplies that are absolutely essential. Ukraine historically supplied large amounts of neon gas critical for chip making lasers. Russia contributed palladium. South Africa, platinum. Japan produces vital specialty chemicals. Behind every AI breakthrough comes this sprawling, incredible interconnectivity. And that's why you better understand that we better put this war business down. And we've got to stop this lunacy and get along real fast. Because if we frankly want the world to live, we've got to get along. Did you know, by the way, this is interesting. America, of course, we dominate chip design through, companies like NVIDIA and Intel. But Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, they manufacture the world's most advanced chips. South Korea controls memory production. Europe builds critical machinery. China spends hundreds of billions trying to achieve semiconductor independence. And the money that is involved here, this is so critical. So I hope when the president meets, when people meet, we sit down, not as adversaries, but as co-inhabitants of Mother Earth and say, we've got to get along. I was telling my friend Jackson, who was answering the phone, I said, this might have been before your time, but I know Bill remembers this because Bill and I both of us came up in the Coolidge administration, but there was a show called Hawaii Five-0. And at the beginning, da-da-da-da-da, that was Ventures, a great song. And they had Zulu as Kono.
Adobe Firefly is the all-in-one creative studio with AI-powered image and video editing for today's creative process. Built for creators of every kind, Firefly helps you generate, edit, and experiment fast. Because the asks aren't getting smaller, the budgets aren't getting bigger, and the timelines, oh yeah, still tight. With all the best creative AI models in one place, Firefly brings your ideas to life. Unlock a better way to make with Adobe Firefly.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix's Remarkably Bright Creatures. What if a Pacific octopus held the key to a mystery that could heal your heart? Well, that's Tova's reality. An elderly widow working at an aquarium. Tova forms an unlikely friendship with the curmudgeonly Marcellus, whose remarkable intelligence leads her to a life-changing discovery. Remarkably Bright Creatures is now playing, only on Netflix.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
And Cam Fong as
This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Here we go. Great show. Jack Lord. Zulu as Kono. The names were great. My name in Polynesian was King Kamanoanalea. That's an old joke. Zulu as Kono. Some of the lines were great. We're going to get that fat Hawaiian. They kidnapped Kono and put him in a bait well. Remember Wo Fat? Remember that one? Bill, Wo Fat, this one Chinese dude, this bald-headed dude, and Steve says, we're going to get, it's like this arch villain, Wo Fat. Out of all the names I come up with, that wasn't one? I know it translates. But Cam Fong as Chinho, he played Chinho Kelly. We're all in this together, brother. He had no acting chops at all, nothing. And I loved it. Those were great shows, my friends. Remember the Wild Wild West on Friday nights? Artemis Gordon, Jim West. They were in that great, they had their own train car and their own locomotive. Never knew who the guy was who drove the train. Anyway, I'm rambling. And so well I do it professionally. Our number 800-848-9222. Let's go back to the phones and back to what I call. Oh, one more thing, by the way, about these chips, which is important because this, in light of the president's movement. Manufacturing chips today is one of the most difficult industrial processes humanity has ever attempted, next to call screening and overnight radio shows. Modern semiconductor fabrication plants can cost over $20 billion and require thousands of production steps inside ultra clean environments where even microscopic contamination becomes catastrophic. And at the center of this world sits Dutch company ASML, whose EUV lithography machines cost roughly $200 million each, and are so complex they resemble science fiction more than industrial equipment. Xi Jinping has committed to quantum computing. Again, ask people, what is quantum computing? Not a clue, not a care, but it is transcendental. Let's go, my friends, back to the phones. Jane in Canada is calling. Jane, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. Hi, Larry. You are in absolute cheeky fine form tonight, I must say.
Well, what does that mean in English?
It means that your puns, and you're doing them with such a straight face. I mean, I can't see your face, obviously, but I am just laughing at some of the things you're saying because it's just, you're just being you, the fabulous you that you are. That is the greatest honor. Anyway, what is on your mind, dear lady? Okay, well, I'm now just adjusting to being on the weekends, which is awesome. Although I really am concerned about the Weekend Warriors, that vital hour that was communicated every Wednesday in Wednesday Warriors. Is there going to be like a replacement for that hour on
We
WABC?
had it last night. We had it last night.
I listened to you last night.
Yes, my wife was on. Yes, and we're going to do that. We're going to have Weekend Warriors, absolutely. And I'm so glad that you asked. You're so kind.
I have you saved on my podcast. Last week they cut out an hour and a half out of your show, but I'll go and listen. Well, thank you for. I'm glad to hear that.
And by the way, remember you can also go to the app. You can hear our various mini casts that are recorded. There's a way for you always to go back. And Mr. Lee, of course, another code would be always appreciated at this point. You were a delight. Thank you so much for your kind words. What are you doing up this early or late in the evening? Coming home from a late night romping around? What are you doing?
Montreal, first of all, looked like they were winning, and then they absolutely got clobbered by the Sabres. So then me and some of my friends were lamenting the loss, and thus I'm still awake.
Now, are you a sports fan? Are you a sports addict?
Every Canadian is a sports fan in the finals, even if you don't watch during the year. If there's a Canadian team playing, you absolutely have to watch and support. It's a thing here. I don't know, but it's just what we do.
And what is your favorite sport?
My favorite sport actually used to be tennis. I used to play, and I got a spinal injury. I can't play anymore, but tennis. I used to love watching what the people in Europe and the UK call football, which is soccer, which is going to be in our country and your country for the FIFA World Cup.
Oh, yes.
And the security is going to be a nightmare, I'm sure. But
have you ever heard of our screener Jackson's a big fan of hurling. I'm fascinated by hurling.
Hurling is throwing up. Burling.
No. Hurling is running around with a stick.
When they used to run the logs down the river like 100 years ago.
No.
And
you're
then
not listening. You're wrong.
Hop from log to log with the stick with a poke on it to direct the flow of the logs, and that was called burling.
No, well, this is hurling. Hurling is an ancient outdoor stick and ball game of Gaelic Irish origin.
Oh, now I know what you're talking about.
Often,
it's a Highland game.
Yes. You have to run with this little ball. Yes. It's the most fascinating games.
Yep.
Thank you so much for calling. I appreciate that. Bill Lee, our person on the board right now, is big into two-man pallbearing. I don't understand what that is or why he enjoys it, but he so thoroughly enjoys it. Also, after the season, Benny, by the way, Benny is calling from Bayside, and Benny has a check mark next to his name for reasons I have no idea. Talk to me, sir.
Anyways, quantum processing basically...
Stop for a second. Stop for 1 second. You miss me a lot. What does this count? Does this count for anything?
I mean, I miss you during the weeks. Anyways, the other guy, I called him boring. He didn't like that too much.
Talk to me, Benny.
Anyways,
Talk to us in the here and now.
processing.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Quantum processing. The first chip does the addition and subtraction, does the first and second grade stuff. The second, these are all stacked on top of each other inside that chip. The second one does the multiplication and division, and the next one does the geometry, and the next one does the real hard stuff. And that's quantum processing. Meaning it's not one chip doing all of those 4 processes at once. It's dividing them up. And now today we divide them up by 10, meaning there's like actually 10 different steps, and it's all happening at the speed of light.
Is that the way you believe it to be true?
Yeah,
Wait a minute. Is
processing.
that your version of quantum computing? That's your definition?
That's what it is, buddy.
Did you believe
it divides itself up? Meaning rather than one chip trying to just do that whole process from beginning to end, this one chip just does this process, then passes it on to this chip. Like whatever.
Not even.
Deciphered.
I love you, but not even close to explaining what is going on. And thank you for your call, my friend. Please call me next week or next time. Quantum computing is not just a faster version or alternative to today's computers. It is entirely different way of processing. As you know, let me bring you up to speed with this. Traditional computers use bits that exist, in this this binary world of zeros and ones, right? Okay. Quantum computers use qubits, QUBITS, which can exist as 0, 1, or both simultaneously through a phenomenon called superposition. Now listen to this. If you add in another bizarre property called entanglement, where particles remain, in essence, mysteriously connected across distance, and suddenly computation enters territory that sounds, well, for the most part, supernatural. A normal computer checks possibilities one at a time very quickly, but a quantum computer can explore seemingly endless, enormous numbers of possibilities simultaneously. So problems that would take today's supercomputers thousands of years could theoretically be solved in minutes. And that is why governments and intel agencies and technology giants are racing aggressively and at the speed of thought towards quantum dominance. And think about this. What does quantum computing mean? Modern encryption that protects banks and military systems and defense systems and private communications could become obsolete overnight. Drug discovery and genetic engineering could accelerate exponentially. Artificial intelligence could evolve at terrifying speed. Financial markets could be modeled with unprecedented complexity. Logistics and weather prediction, you name it. But quantum computing also creates enormous fear. Listen to me. Because whoever achieves stable, large-scale quantum supremacy whoever does that first gains a power that nobody's ever seen. By the way, the United States and private corporations are pouring billions into the race because this is not viewed not merely as technology, but as a geopolitical leverage and national survival. And the weirdest part about this, even the world's top scientists often admit that quantum mechanics itself remains mysterious. Einstein hated it. He called it spooky action at a distance. Let me just tell you something. I don't think, and I say this with all due respect, I don't think people really understand what the future holds. And I'm thinking to myself, and sometimes I don't want to tell people this, but if people knew what could go wrong, they would freak out. Let's go to a man called Dave. Dave lives in the magical land called Louisiana. Dave, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hello, I'm calling it from beautiful Las Vegas. How's everything?
Oh, Las Vegas. I'm sorry. Well, Dave,
no
thank you so much. Dave, what are you doing in Las Vegas right now?
I'm retired. I have my New York State pension out here.
Wonderful. You know, it's funny. We had a wonderful man who called a while back who lived underground. He was a homeless chap who lived underground in Las Vegas, and we never heard from him again. I hope he's well. In any event, Dave, talk to me, good sir.
Well, unfortunately, those people, when the El Niños come in, they live underneath, as you said, and they get taken with the rush of water sometimes to Lake Mead, and that's the last to hear of them.
Indeed, sir.
Peter Thiel of Palantir, he is financing out here Memorial Day weekend the Enhanced Games, and I'll just read it to you. The Enhanced Games is a controversial, privately funded alternative to the Olympics that actively encourages performance-enhancing drugs, PEDs, and other, and medical science to push the boundaries of human capability. And
isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah,
Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel might be, yes, right. Peter Thiel might be one of the scariest people, and J.D. Vance is his little, what's the word? It's a terrible term, but his little biatch, his little subservient little pet. And it's the scariest thing. And most people, my good friend, have nary a clue. Nary a clue. No idea. Did you hear something even more frightening than that? I don't know if there is such a thing. You know who Seb Gorka is? Dr. Seb Gorka. He is this phony baloney. I don't know what he is. He has these titles or something.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Sebastian Gorka.
Yeah, well, I call him Seb. He goes by Seb. He is in charge of the new counterterrorism strategy group, whatever. He believes that people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes, whether you agree with him or like, he wants them to be perhaps considered right-wing terrorists or right-wing extremists, and he wants them to be recalibrated under some kind of a new kind of a category which smacks of limitations of speech. This guy scares me to death, because whenever you want to limit speech, you limit thought.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, both sides of your speech, but I digress. I'm sorry, sir.
May I ask you a question about Taiwan and China? And
You just did. You just asked me a question. You may ask me another one, sir. Go ahead, sir.
China has an incredible amount. I believe it's over 98,000 dams. The largest right now is the Three Gorges Dam. If Taiwan had access to ICBMs, and if you're relying on these dam systems, couldn't Taiwan destroy China overnight if they were pushed?
Well, the answer let's assume the answer is yes. Taiwan would also be signing its own death warrant. So, yes. If you walked into a group, if there was a group of policemen converging, could you walk in with a hidden weapon and, God forbid, start shooting? Yes. You would also be signing your own death warrant. So, yes, you could. Yes.
Yeah, but it just, to me, it just seems the simplest way is to arm them in that regard and step back. But again, that's what it is.
To arm Taiwan?
Yeah, give them the ICBMs.
No. No. You sound like, and I say this with all due respect, a little boy who likes to. Remember when you were a kid with those green little plastic things and you make noises? Ooh, this is cool. You don't want more. Dave, thank you so much, my friend. You're a good man. Enjoy your retirement in lost wages. I love when people talk about war. Oh, I love this. This is so just terrific. Oh my God. This is so wonderful. We talk about bombing and war, and yeah, we don't want that. Did you hear this? Meta will use AI to analyze height and bone structure to identify if users are underage. Did you see this one? They're going to be using a new form of biometrics. So they're going to be saying, oh, this is good. This is their way of getting around trying to find young people and the like. By the way, speaking of mispronunciations, do not say height. It's height. Why people say this, I have no idea. This is one of those stories that my wife brought to my attention from Lynn's Warriors. We talked about this last night, but they want to bring new versions of this. You see, this is the scary part. We have to teach people how to be afraid of things. The use of biometrics to identify underage users will not be for the purposes of excluding inappropriate viewers, but to target the innocent and impressionable. Be not mistaken or fooled, my friends. Do you hear what's happening? You know, we have a lot of folks out there who love to talk about, I don't know. How do I say this in a way? You have to treat people that when the government or anybody gives you a news story, ask yourself, what are they really saying and what do they really want? Now, here's a story for you. Mr. Lee and I are relative compatriots, though I've got many years over him. He's a young man. I, of course, am a decrepit dotard, hobbled by decrepitude nonetheless, from the Coolidge administration. But I will tell you this much. Do you remember, Bill, there was a woman, her name was Sasheen Littlefeather. And Sasheen Littlefeather, does that name come to mind? Do you remember that name? Many, many people, and I know Jackson, of course, would not know this because he's a young man, but in 1972, I believe, when Marlon Brando received the Academy Award for The Godfather, he said, I'm going to send Sasheen Littlefeather to accept my award or whatever it was and speak of the plight of the American Indian or the Native American. Well, later on, guess what they found? They found that she was Mexican. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like the group Redbone. Come and get your love. Most of them were Mexican, which is fine. Goes to show you that Mexicans always not take our jobs, but do sometimes our work better than others. Let me tell you something. If there were no Mexicans in New York, it would stop immediately. But then there's a move right now as they want to. You're going to love this. In fact, I was telling Bill about this, and he was bereft over this. But now we get a new one. An Oscar-winning musician has lost her honorary degree in Fallout after an investigation found that she allegedly faked her indigenous ancestry. That's right, my friends. Buffy St. Marie, 85, was awarded an honorary Doctor of Law, a Doctor of Law degree from the University of Toronto in 2019. At the same time, university officials said that she was being recognized for her work in music and the arts, as well as for her advocacy for the rights and dignity of all people. Well, I would hope so. But on Wednesday, a governing council at the university voted to rescind Buffy St. Marie's honorary degree following a petition. This is according to CBC. The decision marks just the latest honor the singer who won an Academy Award for co-writing Up Where We Belong has lost since a 2023 investigation revealed that she may have built her entire career on deception. As St. Marie rose to fame with her anti-war anthems, Universal Soldier, and Now That the Buffalo's Gone, it turns out she might just have been not the Cree woman from Saskatchewan's Piapot First Nation. She might have been just Mexican, or just she was born Beverly Jean Santa Maria to white parents in Massachusetts. I don't know why that cracks me up. And it goes to show you. And Buffy and Sasheen Littlefeather, her family said years later, was that she was a Mexican. You know, there's something about people and this is the most incredible thing, there's something about people who just, I don't want to say lie. I think the word is lie. It cracks me up. Here's something that most people don't care about, but I'm going to tell you nonetheless. Growing up in Florida, where I'm from originally, not Florida, we had professional wrestling. It was the greatest. It was NWA. And the great Gordon Soley, was Dusty Rhodes. It was before Vince. It was the best wrestling I've ever seen. But at that time, those people who watched were not exactly the most historically astute or adroit. And what they did one time was they would have variations of history in ways that, well, were kind of fascinating. For example, there was a group. See, wrestling fans didn't care about historic authenticity. There was a group called the Von Brauners, two supposed German Nazi-type Teutonic savage beasts, always who wore the black tights and shaved their heads. You had to have a shaved head, and your claim to fame was the claw. You had no wrestling skills whatsoever, just the claw. You would go up, grab people by the head, and squeeze them until they became unconscious. It's called the claw. Well, the Von Brauners, these two Nazis, were managed by Gentleman Saul Weingroff, a Jew who sported a Nazi helmet. And I mean, history meant nothing. Nothing. You know who else history means nothing to? Michael in Glen Cove. Michael, you're on Another Side of Midnight. Good evening, sir.
Hey, Lionel, it's Michael from Glen Cove. I just dropped Bonnie, my comedian
exactly
girlfriend,
what I
off.
said. That is exactly what I said. And I am so You dropped who off?
My comedian girlfriend.
Oh, you, of course, are this couple that have been together for most of your life and you're not married.
Well, it's going to be 7 years, and I have a man cave out in Pennsylvania I bought 9 years ago, and this was only the second time she came out to the man cave.
You have one of the most delightfully strange relationships I've ever seen. You barely know each other. That's why you'll probably be together forever. You don't live together. You're not married. You spend little to no time together. She's a comedian, which is, of course, translation for nuts. I kid, of course. Not really.
No,
and
you're
you
correct.
basically, they're insane. Comedians are people who they want you to convince them that somehow they are imbued in wit. Anyway, Michael, enough about me. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, actually, we were just talking about the wrestling, which I was never a fan of. Why is it that people go from wrestling and then they could become stand-up comedians? That seems to be a trend.
I have no.
Okay. I wanted to call
I have
you.
no idea.
What I called originally about was your description of wafer fab and IC chips. You're spot on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think you're an attorney by trade, but I worked in that industry and the defense industry and the wafer fab industry, and you must do some great research because most people don't get that right. I had to work in that field for years, and you nailed it.
Well, I appreciate it. If I do research like most people should, it's called reading and paying attention. And it's very simple to grasp just kind of like the rudiments of what's going on here. This is let me tell you something. When Xi Jinping met the president and told him right off the bat, we're not going to have a problem with Taiwan, are we? That would really be a bad thing. I hope the president was listening to that. And when you had Xi Jinping referred to Thucydides' trap, oh my God. I hope they listen to Graham Allison, the Harvard professor, and what this means. You know what's so funny, Michael? Last week, you would think everybody in newsrooms, some news director would have said, I want somebody to do a thing tonight on Thucydides' trap. What does this mean? Who was Thucydides? Why does this matter? Not one person lifted a finger because we live in this world of intellectual and curiosity torpor where we're just frozen. We're concretized. This is the leader of China telling him directly, listen to what I'm saying. I'm not going to say this twice. And we couldn't care less. because we think we're the biggest, the baddest, the boldest, and nobody can touch us. Wrong.
Lionel, I love your vocabulary. I mean, I have a decent vocabulary, but can I chat AI all the bombastics that you use in any given show? I don't know what, I just love it. I mean, in any given day, maybe like Bill O'Reilly, I might have to look up one or two words. I don't know. But you, in every episode, must use a minimum of 7 or 8 words, like concretize. You know what? I don't know what concretize means.
Concrete, ossify, to make something. By the way, to make something otiose, OTIOSE, make it useless, where you ossify like bone, in any event. Listen, Michael, I appreciate it. I wish you and your comedian girlfriend nothing but the best. You're a good man. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. Let me remind you, as I am supposed to do, under order of law, to remind you that you're listening to Another Side of Midnight, and this is Lionel.
If data management is slowing down your business, you need the Intuit ERP. If one entity is here, and one here, and one here, and one here, you need the Intuit ERP. If scaling your business feels like starting over, you need the Intuit ERP. Intuit Enterprise Suite is the AI-native ERP solution that consolidates, migrates, and automates, all in one place. Learn more at intuit.com/ERP.
Amazon presents Jeff versus Taco Truck Salsa. Whether it's Verde, Roja, or the orange one. For Jeff, trying any salsa is like playing Russian roulette with a flamethrower. Luckily, Jeff saved with Amazon and stocked up on antacids, ginger tea, and milk. Habanero? More like habanero, yes. Save the everyday with Amazon.
You always want the best for your family, and that means only Eggland's Best Eggs in your kitchen. Compared to ordinary eggs, Eggland's Best Eggs contain 6 times more vitamin D, 25% less saturated fat, more than double the omega-3s, 10 times more vitamin E, and more than double the vitamin B12. So why give your family less when they can have the best? Add Eggland's Best Superior Nutrition to your next grocery list. Better taste, better nutrition, better eggs.
Suffering from dry, tired, irritated eyes? Don't let dry eyes win. Use Sustain Pro. It hydrates, restores, and protects dry eyes for up to 12 hours. Sustain Pro. Triple action dry eye relief.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Here we go. Mr. William Lee, ladies and gentlemen, at the board. You say something about a song. Hey, hey, what does this mean? I say, hell, what the hell? Hell, what the matter if you want to? I don't know what the hell he's saying. Hell, I don't have words for the song now. Oh, yeah. Come and get your love. This guy would come out and do these very intricate dances, these Native American dances, and he's Mexican, which is, nothing wrong with that. We have not only do we just basically eliminate through, don't want to use that genocide word too loosely today, but we just wiped out, just tribe after tribe. And then what we do is we take what is left of their incredible culture and we reduce it into this kind of a ridiculous cartoon version. And all of them on TV is like Dances with Wolves. You notice that? They all have that weird kind of, just like they have that Tarzan African. Remember Tarzan movies? They always have that weird fake African sound, which Paula White uses when she goes through her trances. Utakapaka, takika, maka, kuka, taka. What is that? I don't know. It's the devil. That's devil talk. But in all movies, whoever the running beaver say, utakwana, titinowakana, kawaka. Flying beaver say, man with utunokawaka, man with big heart can kill utunokawaka. Huh? I mean, they were always profound, and there was always just, oh my God. Hollywood will take everything and destroy it. Do you ever see on commercials? We still see it on not on commercials, but on TV shows. The way a computer screen is always depicted in a movie. Big cursor, that blinks. Login, password denied. It doesn't exist that way. Here's one for you. If you ever go to a play, if you're on Broadway, the sound of a door closing, the set never sounds right because the door is not solid. It's not in the wall. It's loose. Little things like that bother me to no end. Now, we have so many things to talk about in addition to the foregoing. Did you know that on September the 11th, the disappearance of the black boxes from the September 11th crash sites remains one of the most disturbing, unresolved anomalies surrounding the attacks? Flight data recorders are engineered to survive, as you know, catastrophic impacts and infernos and you name it. They are painted bright orange precisely so recovery teams can locate them amid, the twisted devastation and the like. Yet Americans were told that not one usable recorder emerged from the most scrutinized crime scene in, I guess, American history. And that explanation strains, as we say, credulity. The absence of the very devices designed to provide this, I guess, definitive forensic evidence creates, I guess you would call it a vacuum filled by, I think, warranted suspicion. You see, when critical hardware vanishes from history's most consequential investigation, I think we can say that public confidence wanes. Just another thing I bring it to your attention. Oh, my friends, 9/11, trust me, you don't want to go there. It would really upset you. Hour number 2 coming up on Another Side of Midnight. 800-848-9222. More coming up. So please stay tuned and stand by.
Looking for a protein shake that tastes as good as it performs? Meet Rockin' Protein Max. Packed with 50 grams of fuel, it'll help you keep up when your day won't slow down. And because it's always creamy and never chalky, every sip tastes great. Even better, it's lactose-free and has 0 added sugar. It's not every day you find a protein shake you actually want to finish. Catch Rockin' Protein in the dairy cooler at a store near you. Rockin' Protein and Shamrock Farms are registered trademarks of Shamrock Foods Company.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. Hour number 2 of this thing of ours on Another Side of Midnight. 800-848-9222. Reminding you that they have hidden our history and manipulated the timeline. You have only just begun to wake up. Isn't that fantastic? Isn't that wonderful? Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't it? Do you ever sit back and say, I get it? I get it. I also told people I want to have on my, not on my grave, but on my sarcophagus. Well, that's perhaps the wrong term, but I want to have, I told you so. I told you. And those of us who, by the way, are in love of saying things like that. Oh, interesting story. Do you know that here in New York, we have a thing called Grant's Tomb on Riverside Park or whatever it's called. And excuse me while I sip my froth. Do you know I have a coffee maker, and there was a button called pressure. I never knew what this was, and I push it, and I have the most delightful froth. It's like having a cappuccino or something. It's wonderful. I just discovered it years after buying this. In any event, ask people the question: who is buried in Grant's tomb? Who is buried in Grant's tomb? And people say, no, the answer is no one, because it's not a tomb. A tomb is under the ground. This is a mausoleum, and he's not buried in it. I know that may sound like much to you or not sound like much to you, but it means a lot to me. And it's always a great one of those great little questions. Did you know that, by the way, my friends, the climate agenda, how I love these climate people. Now, is there climate change? Yes. It's called the sun. The climate agenda increasingly looks to skeptics like a global control mechanism of sorts that is, I guess, disguised or camouflaged as environmental concern. Now, let's listen to this. If rising oceans are truly an existential threat, why are elites buying beachfront mansions while banks continue to issue 30-year coastal mortgages without hesitation? You see, the people demanding sacrifice never sacrifice themselves. With their private jets and luxury estates and nonstop global conferences, all that continues while ordinary schmoes like you and me are pressured to surrender affordable energy and transportation and personal freedom and lose the light bulb. Remember, they wanted to get rid of ceiling fans. They wanted to get rid of pizza stores. It's not gas stoves. Skeptics, people who are smart, they see a massive psyop, a massive psychological operation built on fear and guilt and selective science, designed, as you know, to justify more laws, more taxes, more carbon containment, more surveillance, more centralized control over how people live and travel and consume energy and live. My friends, I want you also to understand something as well. Do not become charmed by the royals. Prince Charles is not in and of itself an evil person, but I don't even think he's on the same phylogenetic tree as we are. I'm beginning more and more to abide the notion of David Icke, who thinks these people are reptilian. I'm serious. Because Prince Charles announces the digital ID that will be implemented in the United Kingdom while the government tackles anti-Semitism or something. Let me explain to you something, and I want to say this. And no matter how carefully I say this, people will always misconstrue, or as Archie Bunker says, misconstrue. My friends, anti-Semitism, racism, sexism, misogyny, misandry, homophobia, transphobia, Islamophobia, whatever you want to call it, all of these things are bad, 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 bad. But do not ever confuse a thought with an action. If something does not translate into action, into something that threatens imminently, using the Brandenburg Supreme Court case, Brandenburg decision, something that does not pose an imminent threat, we in the United States are allowed to love and hate and despise and think anything we want. Thought crimes must never be subject to public laws, to criminal laws. Remember that guy, what was his name? Bubba Wallace? Was it Bubba Wallace? I think he was a NASCAR driver, and they purportedly found a noose. Remember this? It was a noose that was hanging. Turns out it was a loop that was used to pull down a garage door. He was a NASCAR driver. And somebody said, "We found a noose." Okay. Well, what is that? We're investigating it as a hate crime. Why is that a hate crime? Why? Well, because it's a noose. Well, what do you mean? Well, it obviously invokes the historic connection between the Klan and Black or African American violence. Really? Is that what you got from that? Yeah. Well, what do you purport to do with it? Was there any message on there? No. Okay. Was it directed towards him? Well, it was by virtue of the proximity. Really? Yes. So what do you want to do with that? Well, we can't allow that. Why not? What do you mean, why? What? Are you saying you want to live in a world where you allow hate? I don't want to say, I'm not in favor of it, but who defines what hate is? If something is a thought, if something is an idea, purely an idea, be very careful. People use the word pedophile. You're hearing this a lot. Pedophile. The pedophile is somebody who has an attraction for, and then you find the particular age range. Disgusting, of course. But if somebody has a thought, a preference, are you going to arrest them because they think something? What about if somebody fantasizes about cannibalism? Remember the New York City cannibal cop? Oh, I remember this one. I said he didn't commit anything wrong. He was on a chat show. He was talking about he had these weird sexual ideations about cannibalizing his wife. I know it's disgusting. It's late. I said, but it was talk. It was fantasy, but it's sick. That's right. And maybe he shouldn't be a cop. Okay, I'll stand with you with that. But be very careful, my friends, when you are saying that you cannot think something, because it's not so much that we want to advocate hate. It's like, what are they going to prevent you from thinking of next? See, these are things I want you to be aware of. I want you to be armed with a new way of thinking. I'd like to discuss with you something which I think is once you understand this, it's called manufactured ignorance. Manufactured, remember Noam Chomsky, manufactured consent? Is he still alive, Noam? Noam had a stroke or something a while back, and he might still be, I don't know. But manufactured ignorance is the deliberate creation or preservation of public confusion or distraction or lack of knowledge and ignorance and nescience in order to protect power or profit or, and most importantly, control. It's the deliberate creation or preservation of confusion and distraction. It's like a 403 argument in evidence law. Now, instead of simply hiding information, which would make sense, institutions and corporations and political actors flood citizens, you and your life, with contradictions, propaganda, censorship, overwhelming noise, data. I mean, you can't keep up with this, so that the truth becomes difficult to even identify. Where is it? It's somewhere in there. And the goal is not always to convince people of one particular narrative, but to exhaust them into uncertainty, into the sense of, what would you call it, passivity, some kind of dependence on the approved gatekeepers for what they call the truth. So manufactured ignorance, they want you confused. They want you overwhelmed. And they want you distracted. Remember, if you're seeing something on a cable news platform, the last thing in the world they want is for you to understand, for you to be a sentient citizen possessed of knowledge. Oh, this is the truth. You know it and I know it. Now, the people doing this don't know this. The people who are there, they don't receive a memo, but that's precisely what it is. See what I'm saying? Anybody saying this in the real world? Of course not. Have you heard anybody? And I'm also going to say something which really bothers people. In less than 20 years, you will see a complete and total dissolution of the two-party system. The two-party system in our country makes no sense whatsoever. Two sides of the same coin. The left-right paradigm is an illusion. It makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't solve anything. The government, the Republicans and the Democrats that you grew up with years ago, I don't know who these people are right now. I don't know what they're about. And they use this word. And my favorite is MAGA. This is MAGA, the end of MAGA. MAGA? No. I don't think a lot of people's like of President Trump is MAGA. The president never said anything which is that completely separate and distinct from regular, rational, conservative thinking. Let me also remind my friends, there are some things the president does I do not like. I scream and howl like the rest of them. That is our nature. That is what we do. That is what we should do. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Whenever I hear somebody talk about how terrible he is, just remember this brain-dead man, Joe Biden, and this logorrheic, this verbally incontinent lunatic dummy by the name of Kamala Harris, who is still kind of circling for some kind of reintroduction, which I don't think is going to happen. Who's going to be next? AOC. You're going to see a transformation. You're going to see a transmogrification, you're not going to believe. AOC is going to blow your mind. You are not going to believe the AOC that you see in the future. Things are changing drastically, my friends. What is happening for midterms in 2028? The person who is going to be the Republican nominee, you've not heard of yet, or who's not in the offing. Marco Rubio has this idea that somehow he's fooling you, that he's laying back, laying low, and giving it all to Mr. Vance to take all the heat. All the heat. And he was embarrassed during the Islamabad meeting. I'm sorry, that was embarrassing. That was. Thank God most Americans weren't paying attention and no idea. So anyway, we're going to be talking about that. And also coming up, we're going to be talking more about the Pentagon, more about the president still meeting with Xi Jinping, why this was huge. Also the Robert Kagan letter article. Oh my God. The neocon retreating. Now, where were you going to hear this? Here. Because let me tell you something. Everything that we do is not all about this Art Bell spooky UFO stuff, because some of the most fascinating mysteries is government. Our number is 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you on another side of midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
We've only just begun to live.
I know this isn't cool, but since when do we care about being cool? Karen Carpenter was a monster. And by the way, a great drummer, too. So sad. You hear these people that are just... Oh. She also had that unique mouth thing. Like the Celine Dion mouth, the inverted mouth. She had that mouth thing. I'm a mouth person. Certain mouth I don't know what they were. I was watching today. I've seen more of The Sopranos now than I have, I think, when it came on. And the amount of lisping and malocclusions and thick-tongued, everybody from Big Pussy to Walnuts to even Tony to the FBI agent. Did David Chase put out some kind of a casting call for people who were heavy tongue thrusters? It's really interesting because the way we speak. Also, if you listen to the Reptilian, the Theta, like Placido Domingo, that Placido, that Theta, that King Castillo, Rey Castillo, who supposedly spoke with a lisp, and in order for the inhabitants to make him feel less, well, whatever, they would also, so the story went, they would come up with this lisping. Thank God he didn't stutter. Richard Pryor said, what would Chinese sound like if somebody stuttered? Fabulous story. George Carlin also said, you ever found a Chinese guy named Rusty? Things to think about, my friends. How about this? The Pentagon failing audit after audit has fueled enormous public distrust. Because, my friends, ordinary Americans hear numbers so massive, so inane, that they barely sound real. Trillions of dollars move through layers of defense contractors, classified programs, black ops, bureaucratic black holes, while you and me, the schmuck taxpayers, are told not to ask too many questions in the name of some kind of a national security. See, that naturally creates suspicion. And people begin wondering, wait a minute, maybe these missing or unaccounted for funds are simply incompetence, or maybe evidence of a deeper system operating beyond public oversight. What do you think? See, the existence of black budget programs is very real, but the secrecy surrounding them feeds, endless speculation from people, I think, like you and me, about hidden technology, covert operations, powerful interests benefiting those from permanent war, unchecked spending. And when lawmakers and people like you and me and citizens stand up and we openly admit that people, I should say, who follow money trails face intimidation or pressure, it only deepens and makes more critical the perception that transparency is treated as some kind of a threat rather than a duty. You don't know what you don't know, because you're always told, shut up. Sebastian Gorka, shut up. We don't like what you're saying. Shut up. And what's also in me, I would think that Americans would be far more tolerant of people telling us to shut up. I will tell you this. Remember how things go away. Where's the hantavirus? Remember that? Every story. Why am I coming into contact with rat and bat and whatever rodent droppings of urine? What are you talking about? And just like that, it went away. Do you see what fascinates me the most? I could spend the rest of my life talking to you just about things that happen right in front of us. And believe me, you only want to talk about or investigate those things that you were told to stay away from. Because when you're told to stay away from a subject, to just look the other way. That's a polite way of them saying there's something to it. Think about this. I swear to you, I don't know when your red pill moment was. Most of us have had. It might have been JFK. Might be UFOs. It might be a lot of things. You notice how we don't know anything about UFOs? We know nothing about it. All we know is that they talk about it. Epstein, you know nothing about it. You're never going to find out anything about that. You think you do. You think you do. JFK, RFK, you're never, because this is the greatest country in the world. And the reason why it's great is because we're like a child. If you just ignore the subject for a little bit, the child forgets what it was about. And maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's our diet. Maybe it's the Wi-Fi that we're bathed in. I don't know. But we will never, ever, ever, ever be close to scaring the people in charge. Let's go back to the phones at 800-848-9222. A fellow named Max in Manhattan is calling. Max, you're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Yes, Lionel, I had spoken to you in the past about the reptilians, and when I spoke to you about them, you poo-pooed the subject when I mentioned the Rockefellers. Of that nature.
Well, tell me when I poo-pooed.
I don't know why.
What did I poo-poo, sir?
The Rockefellers being reptilians.
Well, why don't you explain it to us, and let's see if we still poo-poo it. Make your case, sir. You're saying the Rockefellers are reptiles?
Well, that was the rumor, and I'm bringing this up because you were talking about
now.
Charles.
Stop for a second. Stop for a second.
Yes.
Stop for a second. You said when I brought up the idea that the Rockefellers were reptilians, you poo-pooed that. Meaning, let me finish. Meaning that you thought they were, and that I was discounting it or countering it. Now, I said, great. Okay. So let me ask you now. Tell me why you think they're reptiles. You say, well, that's what some people say. So that's the basis of your belief that other people say it? What do you think?
Well, what do I think? It said that the reptilians come from, I think, Pluto, I believe. But when they come
reptilians,
they come to our realm, they somehow are at that form of an animal because they're somehow cavorting with the dark side. Very dark.
This is your level of proficiency of the subject matter, what you just told me?
Is that it? You're beginning. Well, I'm. If I give you a simple yes or no, you're going to hang up on me.
No. Please, I know. I want to learn.
That's look. I don't know the whole subject. It's just it's a subject that comes up every once in a while when you start getting into the dark side of politics and these big donors and people like Soros and whatnot.
Well,
and
what do you? But what do you know about the reptilians? You picked out of all the words to use, not corrupt, not foul or criminal. You said, because to me, reptilian is almost like when you call somebody like subhuman or something. I'm not suggesting that Charles is actually a reptile with gill slits or he's amphibious or whatever. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying they're almost like not human in the way that they were raised differently. Don't forget the man has his shoelaces ironed. But see, you're talking about, claims that the Rockefeller family are reptilians. This comes from some cultures and I guess some people call it maybe science fiction like speculation. And the idea,
right?
By the way, it was popularized by David Icke,
right?
Who argued that certain elites and powerful families are secretly non-human, shape-shifting beings controlling world events.
That's the word you use. That's the word you use that brought all this to mind. I think you mentioned shape-shifting. That's what brought it up.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what he said.
I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Oh, no. And what makes these theories interesting is not so much the proof of actual reptilian creatures, but this really the distrust of concentrated wealth and political influence and banking power and these multi-generational elite networks. And families like the Rockefellers become real and also symbolic targets because of their enormous historical influence in oil and finance. And there are so my question to you is, do you believe that we are dealing with reptiles or reptilians? What do you think? Now, what have you heard of what some people say? And I've heard people say, what do you think, Max?
Okay, if I can preface it with all the different hominids that exist or have existed in this world, like Florensis man, like Cro-Magnon, like Neanderthal, maybe even a Yeti. And
cryptids,
could be that we've all been seeded here and we were thrown into the earth and we were told, go fight for yourself. And in a couple of thousand years, we'll take a look at you and we'll see who has maintained some sort of superiority.
And what do the Rockefellers have to do with this?
Well, if we were all seeded here and thrown on the earth in these different hominid forms, maybe the Rockefellers are some sort of genetic.
See, now you're backing into it. Now you're kind of bootstrapping, kind of a post hoc. You're saying, well, therefore, if there was this kind of a Darwinian battle, for the survival of the fittest, then maybe the Rockefellers. Yeah, that's it. The Rockefellers could be. It's like you're now forcing. Why not the Rothschilds or the Medicis during? We're just throwing things around. But listen, Max, I appreciate your call.
One other.
I want you to. I'm sorry.
You did mention Robert Kagan, the neocon.
Yes.
He was also tied in with Victoria Nuland, as I recall.
Yeah, that's it. That's his wife. That's his wife.
Yes. I know. And those are the big neocons who I think helped overthrow the Ukraine, if I remember correctly, right?
Well, part of it certainly. Did you see what he had to say about our association with Iran? He said we've lost it. That was a big mistake. That was stupid. This is from Robert Kagan, and for some reason or another, I don't hear Fox News talking too much about that. But they'll be talking to General Keane.
Maybe it's a nice way of him telling Trump, look, get back on focus the way we want our work done, and then I'll commend you. But right now, you're meandering. You think so?
No. Max, thank you so much. Have a very good day, sir. I appreciate it. Max on Staten Island. Max, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Max or Mike?
I mean, Mike. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry, Mike. I just had a brain fart. Mike, welcome, sir.
Look, I just heard you say, notice that we know nothing about UFOs. Exactly. What are we supposed to know about UFOs?
I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
By extraterrestrials.
Mike, I never said that. I never said we don't know anything. I never said that. I said we are being constantly promised that there's going to be all this disclosure, and then we're going to have that there are these files and this information, and now we're being tantalized. Hang on a second. Now we're being tantalized with various forms of these, the Swedes and the Greys and the critters and that sort of thing. And I'm telling you right now, we don't know anything yet about that because so far they've just been hypotheses or suppositions. Now, what is your point, good sir?
Well, my point is that we've never been visited because the nearest star to us is 26 trillion miles away.
No, wrong. That's one of the biggest. That's the oldest. That's like 1950s argument. You are way behind.
Why? The Alpha Centauri, Alpha Proxima complex.
No.
Is the closest
You're acting as though people or critters or life forms get up and they fly. They go back and forth. The closest binary star system is Zeta Reticuli. And that's about maybe 20, 30 light years away. And as you know, the faster you go, the time dilation, Einstein's twins paradox, allows people to travel. There's also the idea of wormholes and the idea of crinkling time. And you're using this, you start off with this premise that they would come from 26 trillion light years away. Who said that? No. But I'm saying, who said that? You said that.
So I'm not to believe that the closest star to our sun is Alpha Proxima. Well, I'm not.
You are starting off with the premise that where these life forms or whatever would be is in this galaxy, in this area, and nowhere nearer, closer, or that they're already here or in another dimension. You're starting off with this premise and you're arguing around it. You're saying that's ridiculous for it to travel. Who would travel thousands of hundreds of light years? We're not talking. You said that. Nobody is suggesting it. You did. Do you think that's the way you start? Do you think
yes, that's the way
that this is? Do you believe that is how? That is the beginning and the end of the possibility of how, let's say, and by the way, these things, they don't necessarily have to be life forms themselves. They might be bots. They might be drones. They might be whatever it is. But what I'm saying is, you understand, you start off with this premise that by its very nature is impossible. And therefore, what you're doing is you're just canceling the observations, the experiential evidence said by thousands of people, documented evidence, documented of UAPs and UFOs. And you're saying that can't be because of this galaxy that is by its very nature too far away. You see what I'm saying? You start off with a premise that by its very definition is impossible.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I should be thinking about dimensions that have not even entered my mind yet.
And you should also not start off with the idea of wanting to disprove it, because deep down inside, you want to show how ridiculous this is. Deep down inside, you believe this is stupid. I don't believe any of this.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yes.
Well, Mike, I appreciate your honesty.
People that think that online, I can't believe it comes from you, an intelligent person like you. This comes from people who have such empty lives. They need to invent.
Mike, let me ask you something. Mike, do you believe in angels? Do you believe in spirits? Do you believe in God? Do you believe in religion?
Do you
God. Believe in
not angels and spirits? I believe in God,
Pardon
not
me?
angels and spirits.
You don't believe in angels?
No.
You don't believe in Michael the Archangel and Gabriel and angels and messengers of God? You don't believe in the Bible?
Yeah, to the extent, yeah. Bible. I'm a practicing Catholic. I'm a lector at
Not
St.
really.
Church on Staten Island.
No. I can go to an Armenian church every week for the past 20 years and not understand a word of it. Just because you go to a church, you're telling me you don't believe in angels?
I believe in Jesus Christ. Yes.
Wait a minute, no, you're missing the point. You're telling me you don't believe in angels? This is one of the, if you don't believe in angels and messengers of God, it's half of the message right there. What you're doing is you're called a cafeteria Catholic. And you also, and I say this with all due respect, Mike, you don't really know a lot about the subject. You're like double parked. You're like drive-by. You're just like, I think I know a little bit about it. Well, that sounds kind of crazy. And you just keep going and you don't really stop and say, well, let me devote a good week of study. Let me see, what are people saying? What do I not know? You've never done this. You kind of have an idea. And deep down at the foundation of what you're saying is a disbelief. You want this to be false. And all of these people and and you've seen them, you've heard. I mean, we've got people in charge of nuclear facilities who are telling you we have seen craft with vibrating lights land destroy weapon systems, beams, you name it. And all that's because of this galaxy that was too far away. So anyway, Mike, I thank you. Have a great day, sir. Please call me again. You see what happens? You got to ask yourself, if you really don't want to believe in something, don't. Don't. You don't have to believe it. But what I'm saying is, if you think that that's interesting, I know people who believe in angels, and there's absolutely, I mean, you might say, well, I guess there's evidence because the Bible says it. And I'm not suggesting there's no God, and I'm not talking about the Bible, but there is no evidence of angels. But I've got evidence. I've got gun turret photos of gimbals and Tic Tacs, and you name it. And they'll say, no, angels I believe in, but not UFOs. But what is that they're seeing? I don't know, because of the galaxy. Anyway, let's go to Gray in Delaware. Gray, you're on another side of Midnight with Lionel.
Lionel, Karen Carpenter could have been saved by a cheeseburger. And
Gray, that is the oldest joke. That is the oldest joke. And also, remember the Cass Elliot, the other joke too? You got to get the joke correct. And it's old. It's so old. Karen Carpenter died from anorexia nervosa. It's so sad. So sad how this woman. And you call up with this joke about she could have been saved by a cheeseburger? Come on, man. You can do better than that.
Well, nobody helped her. Nobody helped her.
How do you know nobody helped her? You don't know exactly. That's not what her brother Richard said. What do you mean nobody helped her? And one of the things about, you see what you're doing now, Gray, is you're like our previous caller. You're just making stuff up. You're making the reality fit your worldview. Her brother Karen, or her brother Richard Carpenter, said a lot of it, as you know, people keep it quiet. And then when she was noticeably ill, they couldn't figure out what was going on. It's very, very dangerous. Eating disorders are really serious. And you're just, you're just like, you're trying to make a joke about it. And it's an old joke. You even got the joke wrong. You don't know anything about this. You don't know anything about what happened to her.
They saw her deteriorating and they did nothing. It was 45 years ago.
Gray, people can't, what do you want to do? Did you hear what he said? Now you're blaming her family? You're saying they're responsible for Karen Carpenter. Gray, with all due respect, Mike, you're probably a good person. You don't know what the you're talking about. You're just making this up. You really don't know what you're talking about. You are making these statements without any factual basis. You know nothing about the story. You have this drive-by kind of a transitory, I know a little bit about her. She died of an eating disorder, and that's it. And you're sticking to it. You know, you're not saying, well, you know what, I stand corrected. Let me go back and look at it. No, you're doubling down. You're an American. Don't worry about the facts. Just say what you want to be true. Gray, I thank you so much. Please call me again. Have a great day, sir. I love when people just make stuff up. Kevin on Long Island. You're on another side of Midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel, once again, you and the band are kicking it. Hey, let me throw this out there to you guys quick. Okay. I believe that lightning is a vehicle of different entities using it.
Lightning
is a vehicle for time travel, dimensional travel.
Lightning?
Yes.
Lightning in the sky. Thunder and lightning.
Yes, sir. I think
lightning. How is lightning a vehicle for time travel?
Well, I think going through different dimensions that you see the flash, and when you see the flash of lightning, they just got off course, but they just traveling through dimensions.
Wait a minute. Work with me on this. You see
trying.
lightning. You see lightning.
Yes, sir.
You see, basically, you've seen static electricity. You've seen sparks. You've seen it before. And I mean, you can walk across a carpet, touch somebody wearing a wool sweater.
Right.
You've seen every manifestation of electromagnetic radiation and force
coming off the static electricity,
all your life. Okay. So that's an example of time travel.
Well, it could be one type of vehicle.
What do you mean it could be?
Well, I'm thinking it's identities use it as a machine, like lightning, like time. The speed of sound, the speed of lightning. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there, man. I just want to get my 2 cents in.
Kevin, I appreciate it. Thank you. Please call me again. I have no idea what that means, but I like that. I like that. Better to have somebody say something that is completely devoid of any connection to reality than never to think about anything at all. You know, what if? One time, I remember sitting at, God, this was years ago. This was at the bar at Gallagher's. And I made this story up about how smell is it's a dimension of spiritual, that when we smell, and I just made it up. And somebody was saying, yeah, I think that too. And I said, you think that too? I just made this up. Sometimes people love, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a free country. But how do I say this? You have to have a little bit more time that is maybe dedicated to thinking things through. I like to look at it and say, what is this thing? What do we know from this? Let's have a hypothesis. Let's work through a theory. In any event, it's fascinating. Coming up, we're going to talk to Rich in New Jersey, who's going to be talking about abuse in public schools. This should be fascinating, as are your calls, no matter how inane, germane, or insane. 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you on Another Side of Midnight.
All night long, this is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Here we go.
Listen to me, baby, you gotta understand. You're old enough to know the makings of a man. Listen to me, baby, it's hard to settle down. Am I asking too much for you to stick around? Every boy wants a girl he can trust to the very end. Baby, that's you.
Here we go.
But till then, when I say lips bigger, two big kisses.
Here we go. Everybody. I feel that somehow there's a connection to the life of another being, because it will be travel through this notion of the lightning, and the lightning is to another dimension, and it's called through the dimension. And I don't know, could be, maybe, if I don't know, could, maybe. By the way, after the sun, the closest star system is Alpha Centauri. They're located about 4 light years away, 4. And within that system, the single closest star, if that's what you want, is Proxima Centauri, also at a 4.24 light years. Now, if you travel at conventional speed. It would take tens of thousands of years to get there. But what people don't understand is who's talking about traveling at conventional speed. Rich in New Jersey. Rich, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, Lionel. I was wondering if you're aware of there was a bill in Congress that was passed more than a decade ago based on a Department of Education study that was done in 2004 about sexual abuse in the public schools. Mm-hmm. So Congress passed a bill more than a decade ago, unanimously, to do background checks on everybody that would be coming in contact with the students. Mm-hmm. And it was killed in the Senate by Chuck Schumer. And ever since then, we've been at each other's throats. And I think it's all a disinformation campaign. By the way, this was updated in 2022, this study. And so the first one was reported in Investors Business Daily. That's where I first learned about it. And the second one, it's just recently was reported in Breitbart. So, and according to one of the experts in the article, the sexual abuse in public schools is 100 times worse than the Epstein stuff, which in turn is worse than the Catholic Church stuff.
Oh, yes.
So all of this is, all the hysteria about pedophiles in the media is a smokescreen for the teachers' unions. Bottom line.
Well, that is certainly a very workable hypothesis, especially whenever somebody tries. I think the absolute surefire thing, Rich, is whenever someone tries to quash or staunch or stop or any effect to identify and expose predators, that tells you something, doesn't it? Doesn't that tell you something? Mm-hmm. It's like whenever there were. So here is the thing. There is at every level, it seems like more and more people, or maybe we become aware of this, that children at every level, I don't know what it is, from their bodies that we try to kill with vaccines, or who knows, whatever you think, to the fact that they've been exploited on different platforms. It is open season and may always have been against children. At levels I do not understand. I was under this ridiculous idea that somehow we would all go out of our way to protect them. That we would be so enraged over the idea of somebody hurting our children that we wouldn't tolerate it. But I don't think that's the way it is. Rich, I thank you, my friend. I'll never understand it as long as I live. It's almost, if I didn't know better, it's almost as though there's something organic or something in in our genetic makeup or something that makes us have this predisposition for harming kids. We have more coming up for the third and the final hour. Would love to hear from you and your calls, and they've been great so far. 800-848-9222. More coming up on another side of midnight with me, Lionel.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. This is the other side of midnight, whether you like it or not. Our number is 800-848-9222, 800-848-9222. And so call for your calls have been terrific. Ah, yes, Mr. Lee, a code. My kingdom for a code. I thoroughly enjoy your ability to muse and to come up with things. I don't come up with something on my own unless I think there is something that warrants it. I don't fill in the blanks because of what I think could be, whether it's Kennedy assassination or the thing that I find so interesting, even being in New York, are the number of folks, the number of people who have absolutely no interest in 9/11. It to this day blows my mind. And that's what really made the difference for me. That was my red pill moment. That was when I said, wait a minute. I mean, it opened up the portal. It opened up the portal like it was like I saw the light. I said, oh, I get it. I understand now. Now I'm seeing it. You see, that's the part which fascinates me. And I never really, I saw a little bit about this with JFK, but JFK was okay. JFK was okay because there were things, there were people on TV speculated by the way, the number of folks who have the number of JFK investigators, you cannot believe the depths of that. And they can tell you everything other than what happened. But 9/11 was that thing for me. And I still, to this day, I don't buy the official narrative. I don't buy the NIST stories, any of that stuff. But I don't have a theory to explain it. See, that's what they do a lot of times. Like, I don't believe this notion. For example, Building 7, that's the best one. That thing fell on its own. If that's not a controlled demolition, nothing is. But they said, oh, no, that was debris. Debris? What are you talking about? At 5:20 p.m.? I don't believe that for a moment. It's nonsense. It's a lie. It's an absolute lie. But then people will say, well, what do you think happened? I said, oh, don't look at me. It's your story. I don't have to come up with my version of a story once I reject yours. I don't believe that for a moment. So in any event, I don't fill in the blanks just because people will say, well, obviously it's Dick Cheney. Why do you say that? I don't have any idea or any evidence of Dick Cheney doing anything or knowing anything. No, not at all. Not in the least. But people sometimes will take wish and hope and suspicion and kind of meld them into a kind of a collection of everything. Let's go back to the phones. Back to the phone. Let's go to Benny in Bayside. Benny, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel. Benny? Benny and the Jets? Benny once? Benny twice? I don't think Benny's here. Let's go to Teddy instead. Teddy, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Good morning, Lionel. Lionel, I've spoken to you once before, and I said to you, you are brilliant, articulate, knowledgeable. Let me ask you this, Lionel. First of all, I miss you not being on during the week. I don't know why they took away your days, okay, and just put you on 2 days a week.
Teddy, do me a favor. Try calling me back on another line. I appreciate it. There's a lot of static there. And let me just say once and for all, I could not be happier. I don't want to go into specifics, background, but believe me, this is perfect. This is a delight. This is where I like to be. I appreciate your very kind words regarding the rest of the week. I don't want that. This is what I want. This is more amenable to rational living, put it that way. But I thank you nonetheless for your thoughts and comments. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff in New Jersey. You're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hello, Lionel. And
yes,
I
Jeff.
have, I would like your opinion on a recent subject with on and off as she changed the shifted the story, and that's Savannah Guthrie.
Oh,
and
yes.
what she's doing. So this is, you're a brilliant guy and a super intellect. So I just wanted to
tell me
ask
what
you,
she's doing. Tell me, bring me up to speed. What is she doing? What is the latest?
The latest that I heard now, she's promoting a new television show. At the
Wordle or Wordy or Wordle or something. Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, so yeah. Anyway, she's the whole thing as this unfolded, that she really didn't secure her mother's safety in any way, and then she posted a phony $1 million bond after the case was over, and now she's promoting a new television show. In the shadow, the aftermath of the mother's. If my mother died in that, I wouldn't be doing new shows or going on television and smiling. And to me, it's
now,
just.
Wait a minute. First and foremost, let's break this down. A couple of things. First and foremost, I think the new show that is called Wordle or something, or it's a word. It's some new version. That's number one. Number two, I could not agree with you more in terms of her initial reaction. Why she and why NBC didn't say, come on, we got $1 million. It costs nothing. The advertising alone will benefit. You know what, Savannah, save your money. We'll put the money up to bring your mom home. That never happened. That was free PR. I don't know what efforts she did. Plus, the role of the incompetent sheriff at the time of Pima County. Where was cashless Patel? Where was the FBI at the time? Why didn't they bully themselves and say, we're going to take over? Now, as far as how Savannah reacts, I don't know. Remember when Ashley Banfield said that she has impeccable sources that say the number one suspect is the brother-in-law, Tommaso. Remember that?
I remember that.
Okay, this poor guy's going, huh? Me? What did I do? No, it's you. You're weird. And the sister wanted to secure a loan. It's like, wait a minute. And they're blaming her because she was living by herself. That was her home. She didn't want to leave. And so, I mean, a lot of finger pointing. And her job is to be on that stupid TV show with that stupid Hoda Kotb and all that. That's boring with Jenna Bush in this phony, syrupy, saccharine, anodyne crap. They're living in this is an anachronism. But I don't know if she did anything really wrong other than perhaps maybe negligent. It was just, the whole thing was weird. And let me ask you something, Jeff. When was the last time you heard of somebody who just was never recovered? They never found her. They just stopped looking. They just said, okay, well, that's it. That's it. I mean, no body, no nothing. Just see ya. We're done. Okay. It is beyond weird. What do you think?
Yeah, it is beyond weird, but I can't look at that woman on TV. I just can't.
I never could. I never could, because she went back to the time of that day of Matt Lauer and all those. They are there is a word full of, and they are septic. They are they are so insincere. I hate grinning, false, this artificial pretend happiness. It makes me sick. I can't stand it. I hate that. It's just, I hate phony. That's why this Erica Kirk, phony, absolutely synthetic. Just tell me something. Just give me, I don't want, superhuman people. Just stop lying to me. And also, Jeff, that model, that morning show is done. It's over with. The whole notion, the model is over. Jeff, I thank you for your call. One of the biggest problems that we have in our business are people who look back and they want to recreate what they remember. I remember the Today Show with Dave Garroway or Joe Garagiola or Tom Brokaw or Good Morning America with David Hartman. Oh, yes. That's what I want to do. I want to go back to that. No. What do you want to go back to that for? But I like that. Think ahead. What do people want now? What do people want now? They don't want this. I watched for the first time local news. I completely forgot about local news. Forgot about it. I never watched local news. Never. And I was looking for something. I think I recorded something about, I know what it was. Richard Simmons. My wife and I watched that because he was a very sad case. In any event. And I couldn't believe, my God, nothing's changed. Absolutely nothing. Even the weather, this silly banter, this stupid, I don't even know what the word is. It's like, just tell me what the weather is. I've got 4 apps on my phone. What are you going to tell me? I don't want to see Doppler. I don't care about it. What are you doing? And so just like that, these people are saying, look, all I know is what we're doing. In the world right now, when you have media trying their best, especially after Zaslav, post CNN, we still have these stupid groups of people sitting around. It's almost like the radio zoo format. Remember that? Years ago in the world of radio, a guy named Scott Shannon really perfected it, but it was called the zoo. And the zoo format was you get a bunch of people in the morning, you process the mics, and you have this fake laughter and this, everybody's yucking it up and, let's go to this. Well, I understand. And you bring in some girl, she's kind of like the ditz, or she's the, some ditzy dame or some lecherous weather guy or something. And they bring them in. And it's just, this all they know. So if you've been doing this your whole life and you were successful 25, 30 years ago, and you bring them in, guess what they're going to do? Guess what programming they're going to do, what they're familiar with, what they know, what worked for them 30 years ago. It's the most, it is beyond, it blows my mind. Well, that's the whole Today Show thing. And the numbers are dying. Young people don't want to do this. This is, and also people are able to understand sincerity. Kids know it. Dogs know it. People know it. People can tell right away. They know specifically what it is that you are doing when you are lying. Let's go. We'll continue with Benny, I think, who might be back. I'm not sure. But not yet. Put him back on hold. Hang on, Benny. We're going to put you back on hold because we're coming up to a break. Benny, I'm going to get you next, my friend. Our number is 800-848-9222. This is Lionel with you. And this is what we call in the business, Another Side of Midnight.
It's Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
All righty, Lionel with you, and this is Another Side of Midnight. Speaking of people who have absolutely, positively, 100% not gotten the memo that it's over. The Kennedys, Camelot, over. And it's not just that moron, that Jack Schlossberg. This guy's got some serious issues. I'll just leave it at that. It's over. It's done. People are still believing in this nonsense. The Kennedys, Camelot, they don't know what you're talking about. You always have to think about Not younger audiences because you're young, but because they're the future of this. You know what else is over? Saturday Night Live. Saturday Night Live apparently last eve came up with their season finale. And they have the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein, of Will Ferrell or whatever the hell it is. And what's interesting about that is it's not funny, it's shocking. Look, all I'm telling you is simply this. You need to have somebody to remind you what is happening, what is in and what is out. And don't expect, as long as Lorne Michaels, and who knows, they might still be making money through some kind of a deal you don't even know about. But as long as you have Lorne Michaels stewarding the helm, you're going to get the same thing every single year. Okay, let's go to Benny in Bayside. Thirds the charm. Benny, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Hi, good evening.
That
buddy.
would be Benny. There we
as
go.
far as
Talk
us
to me.
traveling through space, we've been traveling through space all along. I mean, about 2 weeks ago, I got pulled over, and the officer asked me to walk a straight line. I said, "Officer, do you realize we're on planet Earth spinning at 18,000 miles an hour?" I said, "Officer, with that, Earth is going around the sun at 90,000 miles an hour. And with that, officer, we're screaming through the Milky Way at 1.4, and you expect me to walk a straight line, officer?" You like that?
Benny, you have a gift. You have a gift for
Please don't
wit
retire.
that is not even remotely able to be calculated. Your ability to deliver that line, right now, people aren't laughing. They're not laughing now, Benny, but I guarantee you, an hour, maybe even a day, when it hits them.
That was a whole joke.
Benny, when it hits them, and we realize how important this is, we're going to be on the floor in a paroxysm of guffaws and chortles and cachinnations. And I thank you for that, Benny. Benny, Benny, what are you doing?
All the time. Most of the time you hit
Benny,
foul balls, but please don't retire.
Benny,
yes, sir?
Retire. I don't know what you're talking about. Benny, listen, do me a favor. What are you doing now? Take me into your world. What are you doing up at this time? What are you up to?
I'm up usually I retired about 2 years ago. I made some good investments. I did air conditioning and heating for a number of years. I have a few patents with Carrier.
I said, what are you doing now? And you're talking about I retired, I made a good investment.
Listening
What's going on?
to Lionel on the radio. What am I doing right this second?
Benny, thank you so much. Have a great day, my friend. I'm trying so hard. I really try. Perry in New Jersey. Perry, you're on another side of midnight with Lionel.
Hey, Lionel. Well, thanks for being there. And I just had a
thank you for being
thought about. Oh, you're welcome. I just had a pretty good thought over the last number of times I heard your show. One of which is never to ask you to play Scrabble. However,
you know what's funny you say
like
that?
Chess.
May I tell you that? I hate to say it, but it has there's no benefit if you get bad tiles. I don't care who you are. You could be Webster himself. You can say, this is garbage. I don't know what to do. It depends upon what you're given. Life's like that in a weird way, but I appreciate the encomium. What else is on your mind,
Indeed.
Perry?
Indeed. I was thinking of board games. How is your chess game?
I one time, tell you a true story. I sat down, there's a friend of mine who was Russian. And I know one guy who's a I don't know if he's a grandmaster, but he's Russian as well. And a bunch of Russians happened to be. And I sat down, and what I did was I just came at them with a fury that was so fast. And I didn't know what I was doing. I mean, I knew what I was doing. I didn't know Rui Lopez from Sicilian moved or whatever it is. I just started moving, and I scared them because they thought, my God, this guy must know something. I didn't know anything. I just moved quickly. And as soon as he did it, I would move something. And they said, wow, you're pretty good. I said, no, I'm fast. I'm doing stupid moves, but quickly. See, Perry, life's like that. Look like you know what you're doing.
Of course. Hey, do you know the history of where the game of chess actually originated from?
Persia, wasn't it? Originally Persian years ago.
India, Persia, somewhere around.
Yeah,
there,
something.
but-
Yeah, something. Yeah, yes. Right. It might be India. Yes, you're right.
One thing I did read was to design such a game that has so many variables.
Mm-hmm.
It had
Permutations.
to be from, from outside of this world.
Why?
It's just
why
the mathematics essentially is what they were.
Have you ever played? Have you ever played the Chinese Go? The version called Go.
Never actually heard of that.
I want you to go online and I want you to look at YouTube and I want you to see they have an artificial intelligence. The hardest thing for them to see if AI works is Go. Chess is easy. They did that a while back, and that was pretty much masterable. In fact, the GOAT, Magnus Carlsen, said that even any chess game, any program in your phone can beat him. But so they use Go, and it's black and white little circular discs, and artificial intelligence beat the best Go player on the planet. So watch that. Perry, thank you, my friend. Don't ever change. I mean that sincerely. Let's go to Danny. Danny in California. You're on Another Side of Midnight with Lionel.
Oh, hi, Lionel. You're keeping me up. I love it. What about the rally in London yesterday with Tommy Robinson? That was something else. Musk was
Thank
there.
you so
Nick
much.
Shirley was there.
Thank you so much. Hey, Danny, call me again, my friend. Have a great day, sir. Thank you. All right, my friends, let me go back to a couple other things I want to bring to your attention, which is really, really important, which I find fascinating. One of the things which is very interesting, again, this idea of keeping you confused. You see, how do I say this? People always say, who runs the show? Who runs it? Is it the deep state? I've always preferred the shadow government. And the shadow government survives by keeping you wonderful, great, glorious people, Jackson and Bill Lee, and to keep you numb, distracted, confused, permanently disconnected from reality. And scandals that we're going through they're not accidents. They're blueprints. Pipelines explode. Remember Nord Stream 2? Remember how we blew it up? We did it. Everybody knew we did it. Remember that one? Probably not. It was, remember, spend a week and just, I don't care where you go, and go at only international, foreign, and alternative news media. If you want to see what Trump is doing in China, don't go to Fox News. What do you think they're going to say? I'm not saying it's wrong. Go to read Russian and Chinese and Etruscan and Turkish. Read Al Arabiya, CCTV, BBC. Go elsewhere. Look at what we're doing right now from a different perspective. See what's happening. So whenever something that happens, remember Nord Stream 2, that pipeline, we blew it up. But when pipelines explode, evidence disappears. And the media machine floods the zone with noise that nobody follows and nobody cares about. Trace the cash back far enough, whatever the story is, and the same hidden networks keep appearing. See, the agencies, Intel and others, they don't protect ordinary people. They protect the power structure, the people who run this show behind the curtain, while the public, while you and me, we're just conditioned to mistake manipulation for reality. And it's funny how the CIA spent decades, and millions of dollars studying remote viewing and declassified mountains of documents and basically admitted that they believe something unusual might be happening. Yet, almost nobody cares. And during the Cold War, psychic spying was treated seriously enough for intel agencies to keep funding it year after year. And officially, the government later claimed that the results were consistent or inconsistent and reliable. Remember the CIA's program Stargate, Grill Flame, Sunstreak, the most fantastic thing ever. Whenever people get into the, I don't want to call it the Art Bell thing because I think it does a disservice to Art Bell but it's always some cloned version of Art Bell. But what's more interesting, not more, but what's equally as interesting as UFOs and UAPs are all of the programs, all of the operations, all of the CIA and NSA and Intel programs that we had, that were going on, that we know nothing about, and we're still trying to figure out right now. Let's go to Poobah, as in a grand Poobah. Poobah, you're on another side of Midnight with Lionel.
Oh, hello. Is that me?
That is you. Your name is Poobah?
Okay. He misunderstood me, Lionel. I am you. I haven't spoken with you in a long time. I was disturbed when I couldn't find you.
What is your name? What is your name,
well,
please?
It's my portmanteau, as you told me.
Oh.
Cuba.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Cuba Riqua.
Oh.
Cuba, as in Cuba, Riqua, because and in honor of my father, whose birthday it will be in a couple of days. He was from Cuba, and my mother was Boricua, so I put it together. As you told me, it's a portmanteau. Cuba
Right,
Riqua.
exactly. What's so interesting is our good friend, my dear friend Jackson, sometimes will put everything through the prism of his own particular reality portal, and I got the name Poobah, P as in Paul, UBA, like Grand Poobah. He is a laugh riot. I love him. He is fantastic. You don't want him doing 911 dispatching or air traffic controlling or poison control for that matter. Anyway, what is on your mind today, fair lady?
Several things. One is that, first of all, Lionel, Barrymore, Stander, Richie, or Tutu? I'm wondering the inspiration for your name.
It's from Al Pacino's character in the movie Scarecrow. He played Francis Lionel Del Bucchi. And it was a long story, but that is the derivation of this. That's all. So it's a boring story.
Okay. The other thing is, about you not being on the usual time I expected. So I was concerned because you brought up Victoria, what's her name? Victoria Newland and her husband. Yes. Because so many people throughout, I was taught by my Cubano father, who only had schooled with an 8th grade education, but he read everything, and he taught me, both he and my mother taught me they gave me the greatest gift about being a critical thinker, and researching and looking things. And he used to say, how can I say it in English? Don't believe what you hear and only half of what you see.
Exactly.
And anyway, so I'm so happy that you brought that up, because all throughout the media, and I listen to all kinds of media, all spectrum, political spectrum, and I'm very disconcerted how anything about Russia is canceled. I happen to have been. I was married to someone who was in both the Bulgarian intelligence service as well as the KGB. So I learned a lot about what's involved. Yeah, he had his. I'm still dealing with the security issues with that. He died a number of years ago. Huh?
What security issues are you dealing with?
Well, because people, when they started declassifying documents, and it's not to do with Russia, more to do with the Bulgarian. Well, both. In Bulgaria, it was Zhuskov, the dictator during the he became unpopular with Comrade Stalin. They said, but then they said his life is like I'm sure you know about John le Carré, right?
Sure.
Tinker,
right. The man who came out of the cold. Yeah, right.
Yeah. A John le Carré novel. So many things. It's like one of those matryoshka, one of those Russian dolls that you open up and you get.
You know what's funny? Let me tell you a story about something. First of all, I was born in Tampa, and we have a huge Cuban population. Huge.
Oh, of course.
And I had heard when I grew up, loads of my friends were from Cuba, and their parents would tell me stories. And I cannot tell you how many people I knew whose fathers were in jail and they were part of the brain drain in 1959. So anyway, I was with a radio station in Tampa, and we had a guy who was part of this. I guess he would be. It was part of an exchange program. So he was from Cuba, and he was supposedly a journalist from Cuba. Anyway, so he came and spent time at our radio station. So I called a friend of mine. He's a lawyer, Cuban, but also worked a lot with the FBI. Whenever somebody would come and defect to the U.S., they would go see him. He knew everybody. I think he was a spook himself. I think he was connected. So anyway, I said, listen, do me a favor. I said, we have this guy coming and his name is so-and-so. I said, he said, I know who he is. He's a spy. I said, okay. He said, yeah, he's with, he's Castro's guy. Castro had one of the most incredible spy networks you can imagine. He says, when you see him, he says, he will always have his briefcase with him, and he's always recording. He says he'll always have a briefcase. Watch this. So anyway, I met with the program director. I said, listen, just want to let you know something. The guy that we've got here, he's a spy. Well, I mean, he's a spy, but he's intel. He's Cuban intel. And I'm sure you know this, but just so that you know. Oh, would you stop? I said, no. I said, this isn't from me. I'm telling you what I heard. This is from FBI when they were doing a good job, and they're doing a great job. But anyway, so I said, well, do me a favor. I said, the next time you see him and he comes into your office, I said, tell him, I say, listen, if you want, we can lock up your briefcase someplace and watch how he'll fight you. So anyway, it turned out he was actually a spy. No doubt about it. So anyway, we didn't understand this. People thought I was being, whatever. That I was being, like John le Carré, or I was reading into it. When I talk to people, I got to tell you this story. Speaking of Cubans, people in this country have no idea what it's like to not have food, to not be able to eat. Here in New York, we throw away stuff. It is such a sin. It is a sin. Yeah. So anyway, make a long story short, I knew these people right around 80 and 90. Then after Castro started to let people go, when travel became more normalized, these people brought over their grandparents. This guy used to hoard, kind of like not yucca but malanga and all these roots and these ores.
Tubers.
Yes, tubers. And do you know that there was a story, unconfirmed, a woman at a hospital would actually use fat from a cadaver because they couldn't get cooking oil. Now, I heard this. A lot of people were saying not exactly the most sanitary, but anyway. So these people understand something. If they found that you were hoarding anything, God forbid you had a chicken. God forbid. You're dead. You would just be, there's no firing squad. You just disappear. Okay, make a long story short. They picked abuelo and abuela at the airport and they brought them to, I think it was Miami. And there was, this was before there was like Costco, but they had these Albertsons, these big grocery stores. So they said, abuelo, we're going to go to this place to get food for the party. He came from the plane, never been in this country in his life, and they took him to this big grocery store. Nobody thought about this. Now think about this. He walked in, and he looked around and he said, what is this? He said, this is a grocery store. A what? He said, grocery. He walked down the aisle. He couldn't believe the meat section. He started to clutch his heart. He felt like anxiety. He never saw more meat in his life, in packages and in different styles. And you know, pork over here and chicken over here. You want ribs? You want this? You want St. Louis style ribs? You want pork ribs? Nobody noticed him. What got him, where he had to be rushed, he was having like a panic attack, was in the cookie row. When he saw an entire row of Keebler, Pepperidge Farm, vanilla wafer, he lost it. So they put him in the car and they said, oh my God, they didn't think. So they finally calmed him down and he said in Spanish, he says, you're so lucky to live in a city that has this store. Without thinking, the granddaughter said, no, abuelo, look, we have another one. This is just one. Look, we have and he started to go through this again. 90 miles from this country were the most abject horrors you can imagine. And Castro was a racist. There were no blacks on his cabinet. None. During the time of AIDS, he would quarantine you. There's no, so these people who lionize him and they loved him and they say, well, literacy is up and infant mortality is, okay, fine, that may be true. But we don't know how lucky we are in this country. We just have no idea. I mean, it's not perfect. And a lot of it's exaggerated. And there are some things in Cuba, by the way, medical care, terrific. Now, granted, you don't want a heart transplant, but for regular, so there are some benefits. So when you talk about Cuba, and we have all these people who talk about flags and patriotism, this country, we are the most spoiled. We just assume everything's going to be there. And one more thing, Cuba Rica, whatever, if we don't get the Strait of Hormuz fixed immediately, you're going to see motor oil. You're going to see privation like you can't imagine, because America is in line for a shock. We've never really had a shock. COVID was as close to a shock. And I don't mean to go on and to ramble on, but you brought up Cuba. And when I hear a lot of these lefty liberal friends who lament the fact that we could learn from socialism, I want to say, would you like to live there? Would you like to, this Nick Shirley, these people who go to Cuba and they're staying in these nice hotels? I don't know what you're talking about. I talked to a guy one time who was he was a prisoner of war in Cuba for like 30, this was years ago, for like 30 something years. And all he had to do was accept Castro. And he said, no, 30 years. These people show a resilience you can't imagine. I mean, they are just, and now you've got Marco Rubio, who he's got some delusions of being the Bolivar of Cuba.
He's never been to Cuba. He doesn't know anything. But, I disagree with you on a number of things about Cuba, but my second point was about the Russia.
No, tell me what you disagree with. Tell me.
Oh, no.
One thing you disagree with.
I'm more interested to know, because I thought maybe you got pulled off because so many people, both in left both in right-wing and left-wing media have gotten canceled, I think is the term, because they brought up Russia. And the thing is, like there's this Russophobia that drives me crazy. And you...
Oh, me too.
What I want to know is you made the most... I don't know how many months ago it was, but I wish I said, I wonder if they have an archive of Lionel talking that day about why Putin did what he did. Like people don't remember the Cuban Missile Crisis. It's exactly what Kennedy told Khrushchev. It's very
exactly
simple.
Right.
They do
and also, by the way... And also, we have the Monroe Doctrine. They don't even have that. And also remember that Putin said he was going to meet with Zelensky. He was going to work this out. But Boris Johnson said, oh, no, you don't. Oh, no. So just remember, they wanted this. And Putin said, I'm telling you, all I want is you are not going to have a NATO country on my border. That's it. End of discussion. And so what they did was and you know what? Do you know that that Ukraine is still not in NATO after all that talk and all that nonsense? Why haven't they just invited them? Because nobody wants them. Because this guy's a cocaine addict, he's a loser, he's a degenerate, and this was this guy named Kolomoisky created him. He's like the Charlie Sheen. It's a joke. But you'll never understand that.
And the other thing is,
when you've got people like Lindsey, wait a minute, but you'll never understand that when you have people like Lindsey Graham who are just touting this nonsense.
What a clown. Yeah. I recently heard on another station, it was a brilliant analysis of these kinds of things with Scott Ritter, former UN.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I know Scott very well, yes.
And talking about what you brought up, you mentioned
have you ever heard General, have you ever heard John Mearsheimer? Have you ever heard Colonel Douglas McGregor? Have you ever heard Jeffrey Sachs? Have you ever heard? I mean, you can't believe.
Colonel Larry
McGregor.
Lawrence Wilkerson, who was
Larry Wilkerson.
Colin Powell's
yes.
chief of staff. You listen.
And
to
by the
him
way,
about
quickly,
that.
last one. Listen to Pepe Escobar. Pepe Escobar writes in a publication called The Cradle. Pepe Escobar. He writes about China. You will cry when you find what you have been not told. Cuba, I must run. Thank you so very much. You are a delight. This is Lionel with you on another side of midnight.
All night long. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. This is Another Side of Midnight with Lionel. Now, to the Bernard McGurk Studios, here's Lionel.
Alrighty, Lionel with you. In the waning moments of this thing of ours, let's see if we can get to a couple of questions, if we could. Let's go to David on Staten Island. David, you're on the other side of midnight with Lionel.
Mine for a long time is that the speed of light is not a constant. Each particle in space has a different mass to each of the colors that you see. If I am correct, and somebody could verify it with different lasers, different colors, they'll come up with different answers.
No. The photon, by the way, has no mass.
Yeah, you're right there, but still I say I'm probably right in the long run.
Well, David, I thank you so much. Yes, in fact, we're going to try right now. In fact, I've just instructed Jackson to immediately do this after the show ends, to use various colored lasers. He's going to be doing this. He is sure to be doing this immediately after we are done. Mike in Hudson You're on the other side of midnight with Lionel. Another side of midnight.
Yes, the Bible teaches that some people will meet angels without knowing it, and it says, therefore, entertain anyone who asks you for something, give it to them, because it may be an angel.
Wait. Anybody who asks you for something, give it to them? Anybody?
Right. Well, entertain people. In other words, if you meet a poor person and they ask you for some food or for $1 or for $5,
entertain
give
them.
It to them. That's right. It says.
What if they ask for 100? What if they ask for $100?
If you got it, give it to them.
Why?
Well, here's what it says. Okay, I'll give you the basic.
What do you think? Forget what the Bible says. Listen, I don't need you to tell me what the Bible is, because I can just go to the Bible, and not even talk to you. We can just go to the Bible. Tell me what you think. What do you believe from your heart? What do you believe, Mike?
I believe that if somebody asks you for something, it may be an angel. That's what I believe.
You're just repeating what you just told me, because you read this in the Bible. If you hadn't read this in the Bible, would you think that? Would you believe what you just said?
I would not. No, I would not.
Why is that?
I would not.
Why is that?
Because I would have no reason to believe that a person that I met was an angel.
But why would you want to help them, irrespective of whether they were an angel? Why wouldn't you want to help them because you're just merely a good person?
Well, okay, you got a good point. Very good point.
Now, let me ask you this question. If somebody is an angel, so what? What does an angel do? Okay, the guy you gave $5 to could have been an angel. What happens? Does he turn around and say, I'm an angel, now you're blessed? Or does he go off and ask somebody else for $5? What happens after your benevolence is exhibited? What happens?
Well, that I don't know. All right, I admit I don't know that. All I know is
I like that.
Just what that said. I
now let me ask you this: Are there bad angels, negative angels, fallen angels, demons?
Absolutely.
Now, what if they ask you for something? How can you tell a good angel from a demon?
I don't know.
Thank you, Mike. Have a great day, my friend. I love this country. And let me tell you, speaking of loving this country, I want to thank Mr. William Lee. You did a tremendous job tonight. And to our screener, Jackson, words cannot explicate or limn my respect for you, my thanks, and my gratitude for you gentlemen for being the backbone of this. Thank you, my dear friends. We will see you next weekend, Saturday and Sunday mornings, right here. Have a great and a glorious day. And until then, my friends, by the way, follow me go to YouTube at Lionel Nation. See what I'm doing there. And in the meantime, remember these final words. The monkey's dead. The show's over. Sue ya. Da-da.